The Badge to the Bone podcast contains adult language, mature themes, psychological nudity. Viewer discretion is advised. The opinions expressed here are ours and ours alone. Buckle up.
All right, welcome back to Badge of the Bone podcast. I'm Denny.
I'm Al.
And now we got another episode.
We do.
I think this one's going to be kind of cool.
I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right.
I'm giving up on society, up on my family, up on your social disease. I'm giving up on the industry, up on democracy. Done with all your...
Okay, I know that song.
I love that song.
Brings back memories.
He can hear you, Ray.
So I'm sure maybe by everybody now cluing in that we're going to probably do a little something different tonight.
Yeah. Been kind of looking forward to this one all season.
Yeah. I think this will be good. You can't go wrong with Ghostbusters.
Okay, who brought the dog?
Good stuff.
Well, yeah, so you're right. Tonight we're going to do something very different. We are going to talk about something that is near and dear to me. I have been fascinated, absolutely fascinated with paranormal stuff since I was probably 9 or 10 years old. Love it.
Well, I think it's interesting stuff. I mean, I get a kick out of some of the paranormal shows, and
Yeah, there's a lot of cheesiness out there, though.
there's a little bit. There's some good stuff.
There's some that I like, and some that I don't watch at all. But part of why I wanted to do this was because this is something that because Denny and I do have lives outside of this shed.
Probably not very much of one, but some semblance.
But I have been involved in paranormal research and actual research where the sciencey, boring people that no one wants to hang out with or do a TV show about. But because I've always been fascinated with it, and so you mix that. I've been doing that now for 17 years. But you mix that with law enforcement, first responders.
Right.
We see a lot of shit.
Sure.
We don't always talk about it.
Right. No, that's true.
But we see some weird shit. And there's more than a couple cops I know that have encountered some strange stuff on duty.
But Al, I mean, what kind of weird shit are you talking about?
You could accept the fact that this city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion.
What do you mean, biblical?
What he means is Old Testament, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor. Real wrath of God type stuff.
Exactly.
Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice.
Dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Yeah.
So we're talking about dogs and cats living together.
Strange stuff.
Yeah.
We see it. So I have a good buddy of mine who I've been itching to get on the show to talk about this kind of stuff.
Yeah. We've talked about it a lot.
Because not only do we do that kind of stuff together, go out and look for strange stuff, he has actually encountered this on duty. And not only has he encountered this stuff on duty, he wrote a book about it.
All right.
So he wrote a book called Policing the Paranormal. and it's been out for a little while. If you haven't read it and you're looking for something lighter than some of the other books that we have recommended, but thoroughly enjoyable, you should give it a look. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce you guys to Paul Hope, the author of Policing the Paranormal, and he is also still an active LEO.
Nice. Hey, Paul, welcome to Badge of the Bone.
Hey, how you doing, guys? Appreciate you inviting me on the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to apologize in advance for my voice. It's kind of coming and going. I've got a little congestion. Spent the whole weekend moving my kid down in South Carolina, and it was a fun ordeal, but didn't get a whole lot of rest. So kind of still recovering from that trip. But yeah, it's great to have you here.
I appreciate it.
And so, Paul, some of the listeners are probably going to notice that you do not sound like you are from rural Virginia.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
No.
So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I was born and raised on a little island off the coast of Great Britain called the Isle of Man. It's in between Great Britain and Ireland. So basically, if you took a boat from Liverpool, England, to Belfast, Northern Ireland, you'd hit a rock in the middle that's called the Isle of Man. It's actually its own little country, but it's only about 28 miles long by about 15 wide. So, yeah. But that's where my accent comes from. I came over to the States when I was 21.
That sounds kind of like a badass name for a place. Isle of Man. Yeah. I picture, gladiators there and giants and welcome to Isle of Man.
I think it's a little quieter than that.
I'm sure it probably is, but it just sounds awesome.
Yeah.
So,
it was,
you came over when you were 21.
Yep. Yes, I did. Married an American girl and came over as 21, and then soon after that joined the U.S. military.
All right,
And,
what branch?
U.S. Army.
Okay, very good.
Yeah,
Thank you for your service.
I appreciate it. So,
You betcha.
and did my 4-year enlistment in the Army, and then I got out and became a police officer.
So, how long have you been on the job total?
Well, I started in law enforcement in 2001, but I took a 8.5-year break, and that's when I went over to Afghanistan doing the security contract and stuff, and stayed over there for 6.5 years. I was out of law enforcement altogether for just over 8 years, and then somehow found my way back into being a cop. So I got about 14, 15 years under my belt right now.
Nice.
Yep.
So, at some point in your career, you ran across the stuff that we're talking about. Strange things, unexplainable things. You ran across this on the job, and you ran across it enough that you decided to write a book about it.
I did, yeah. In 2001, I got out of the Army. I got hired on with Virginia Capitol Police in downtown Richmond. Just got out of the Army, you take first job that comes along, right? So I actually enjoyed it for a couple of years. It was a good introduction into law enforcement. But as you know, Virginia Capitol, very historic. The police department itself was established in 1618, so in Jamestown. But you got the Virginia Capitol there, you got the governor's mansion, you got the Supreme Court building. I mean, a whole host of older state properties. And there's a lot of activity goes on. And I happened to be assigned to the midnight shift, so I was exposed to a lot of that activity.
Oh, man. So I'm definitely anxious to hear that because I've heard all the stories of reports of things and activity, and a lot of it I hear has come from Capitol Police, folks that are on duty late at night. And so, yeah, I definitely am ready to hear what you experienced.
Yeah. Well, I mean, coming from where I grew up, it's a Celtic culture, so we got a lot of introduction at a very early age into folklore and the supernatural type stuff and everything. So it wasn't exactly a newcomer to it. And for anyone who reads my book, the first chapter is about experiences that happened to me and people I know back on the Isle of Man. But yeah, joining Capitol Police. When I was first assigned to midnight shift, I remember the lieutenant telling me, doing roll call, he said, "Hey, listen," he says, "welcome aboard and stuff, but this is midnight at the Capitol, and you may see or hear some things, experience some things in these buildings that'll make you question your own sanity." And I'm like, "Oh, are they just messing with the rookie, trying to freak me out or
That's just
something?" I'm like,
policing.
yeah.
That's
I'm
just
like,
being a cop. But
and the good thing is, because of my upbringing, where I'm from and stuff, I'm not afraid of it. I understand what can happen and stuff. Like I said, I'm no newcomer to it. So, but I took it with a grain of salt. Figured they were trying to freak me out, and it was only a matter of a few days working there when I had my first experience, and I was like, yeah, okay, this this is going to be interesting, and having an interest in the topic of the paranormal and having had my own personal experiences beforehand, I started asking a lot of the officers that worked there, and some of the officers have worked there for 20 plus years. I started asking them about their experiences, and you find that police officers are pretty reluctant to talk about paranormal experiences, especially on the job. But it seems that I was a cop. They were polite enough to share their stories with me, and they had some interesting stories. And I often used to sit there at night thinking about what I'd just been told, and like, hey, someone should write a book about this stuff. This is some really really good stuff. And no one ever did. So when I left the department, because I only worked there for about 3 years, I left and went to another department. But I kept in touch with the guys, and I decided, you know what? No one's ever going to write this book. I might as well do it. I'll take a shot. So I went back, contacted the guys, sat down with them in cafes and restaurants and work and stuff, and chatted to them on the phone and had them retell their stories. And, I jotted them down and, yeah, I wrote a book.
That's awesome.
so,
Yeah.
of course, all kinds of things you said happen. What kind of things were they telling you?
So, for instance, the one lieutenant that had spoken to me when I first got on the shift, that I thought was just trying to, wind me up. He told me, he said, he's a God-fearing man, I mean, a real devout Christian, he said to me, he says, he'd been working there for a few years. He was in the Capitol building one night, and one of the things he used to do was early in the morning, the Richmond Times-Dispatch was delivered by the newspaper delivery, and it was like hot off the press. It was usually about 4 a.m. it would get there. So he'd take the newspaper, he'd go into the Capitol building, and the place is locked up. There's no one in there. And he'd go up to what's called the hostess desk, where the tour guides sit, and it's right outside the old house chamber. You got the statue of George Washington there and stuff. He'd sit at the desk, flick on the light, read the newspaper. And he said this particular night, early morning, he sat there, opened the newspaper. He said, nothing going on, no one in the building, just him. And he said the light flickered a little bit, but, it's an old building, not a big deal, lights flicker. He said, he's sitting there, he's got the newspaper in front of him, and all of a sudden it felt like somebody flicked the newspaper, which didn't shock him. He thought it was one of the guys trying to get his attention. And he lowered the newspaper, and there was no one there. He was just looking off into the darkness. And so he said that kind of raises awareness. He said, and before he could go back to reading the newspaper, he watched the telephone that was on the desk slide about 4 feet across the desk right in front of him. And he said at that point he dropped the newspaper and ran, left the building, told the guys outside, anyone wants the newspaper, it's up there, you can go get it yourself. That kind of thing happening.
Oh wow!
But I mean, it's really strange place. you talk about the personal experiences to people, and they just look at you like, no, it can't be that bad. I mean, it's literally on a nightly basis. You're walking around these old buildings because part of Capitol Police's job is kind of like security. You be in the buildings at night. You walk around the buildings. You check them. Back when I worked there, the Capitol building, this was before the renovations, had a really terrible, fire detection system and stuff like that. So they had an officer in there all night just to make sure the place didn't burn down. So you'd be in there on your own, and you're walking around, and you hear footsteps walking up hallways. You hear doors closing. I've heard voices inside the old Senate chamber, 2 o'clock in the morning. Place is locked up. It's pitch black. And I hear a bunch of voices. I mean, loud. Like they're having a meeting in there. And I go up to the door, unlock the door, open it. It's pitch black in there. Flick on the flashlight, and then I flick on all the light switches. There's no one in there, not a soul in there. I search the place thinking, you know what, is there a radio on or something in here?
Right.
I'm looking for reasons. I'm trying to, figure it out in my own head, what's going on. And I even went out on the south portico to the front to check if there was anyone outside. Maybe the voices were, coming in through a window, whatever. There was no one around. There's no explanation for it. But I heard several voices like they were having a meeting in that room.
Well, no politicians are working late, so
Yeah.
they're not there.
Yeah, you're right there.
So was it like some of the stuff that we've encountered when we've gone out and done this kind of work, where if you hear the voice, you can't understand what's being said, or could you actually make out what was being said?
No, I couldn't make out what was being said. It sounds like a whole bunch of mumbles, It's kind of strange. But it was, like I said, it wasn't like, you see on these shows and stuff, the paranormal shows where, they enhance the sound and, using software to try and, try and isolate this noise and try to figure out what it said. No, this is an actual conversation. This was loud, like there was a bunch of people on the other side of the door just having a meeting. And that kind of activity was kind of regular.
Yeah, the stuff in the wild. Oh yeah, the stuff in the wild is so different than the stuff they show on TV.
You mean it's not like Zach?
No, Zach Baggins. I will say his name here. Zach Baggins.
Oh, you're calling him out.
Zach Baggins is full of shit.
What?
Yeah,
Zach Baggins.
He's full of shit.
That's not real.
No, he's full of shit, and I'm saying it here. And if he wants to show up and try to kick my ass, he can.
We're going, Zach.
Is full of shit.
Al has called you out.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway,
yeah.
Go ahead.
So I was going to say it's not a show I watch. I am aware of the show and Zach Bagans, but I did visit his museum in Vegas a few years ago, and that was an interesting place. So I'll give him that.
He's got a museum.
I don't think I knew he had a museum.
He has a museum, and it's full of allegedly haunted artifacts. He's got a lot of interesting stuff in there.
Oh no shit.
Yeah. He's even got Jack Kevorkian and Suicide
Man. Oh no kidding.
Yeah.
Jack Kevorkian. What? I'm sorry. What?
Jack Kevorkian Suicide Van. He had one of those old Volkswagen campers, like you'd see a surfer driving, and that was his suicide van. He had all of the chemical cocktail equipment set up in there and a little bed and everything else. And yeah, he let the folks climb in the van and administer it to themselves. And but that's in the museum.
Oh,
yeah, a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of interesting artifacts. But thankfully, Zach wasn't there.
Now, the one I would want to go to is Ed and Lorraine Warren's museum. I have friends. We have friends that have gone there. That because they got Annabelle there.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
that would be interesting.
Oh, that's cool.
But,
yeah.
Yes, a mutual friend of ours said that Annabelle. They used to go up once a year, and Annabelle is behind glass, and there's a sign there that says "Don't touch the glass." Not because they're worried about fingerprints, just because they seem to think that it's got problems.
Now, see, that's just, inviting me to touch the glass.
No.
Don't put the sign telling me not to touch the glass. I don't want to touch the glass when you tell me not to touch the glass.
No, he said he had like the worst feeling of dread and like a migraine headache that came on almost as soon as he stood in front of that.
Oh, wow.
So
Now, Paul, it's interesting hearing this stuff because I'm kind of that mix between I'm not a non-believer, but not a full believer, if that makes sense. And I guess
Yep.
it's, I do think there's certainly things beyond that we just don't know, probably would never have answers to. But, part of my nature is to always search for that. There's a reasonable explanation for this. If I hear something or see something, I'm like, yeah, there's a reason behind it. There's something that causes, there's a light, there's an electrical issue. I'm hearing, it's my mind playing tricks, but I'm always trying to rationalize it. So it's interesting hearing the stories, particularly from an LE perspective. So, because to me, that it's not just some schmuckatelli out there who wants to get some attention. And this is LE reports, this is, law enforcement telling you that they experience these things. So to me, that gives a lot of weight to it. And it was also my understanding that some of the experiences at Capitol Police were actually contained in reports.
They are, yeah. They've got a file, or they had a file when I was there, and they nicknamed it the X Files. And there's a lot of, yeah. Go figure, right? It's original.
Right.
Yeah, they had a lot of files, police reports for suspicious persons, unable to locate, that kind of stuff, because people had actually seen,
Right. I read that.
full-bodied apparitions in some of these buildings, and of course it gets reported in as a suspicious person, especially when the place is locked up and there's supposed to be no one in there, and you end up searching the building from top to bottom, no one around.
Yeah, and that gives weight to it too, because that's a huge offense for an officer to falsify a report.
Absolutely, yeah, and and one of the reasons I wrote the book, about police officers' experiences is because, like I said, most of the police officers I spoke to, if not all, and including myself, we're skeptics. I'm skeptical
Right.
all the time. I mean, I honestly believe that most of the stuff you see on TV and everything is just, it's BS, and I think I'm a rational person. I always try to rationalize stuff. Like I said, when I heard the voices in the old Senate chamber, I try to rationalize it. I looked for every reason that could possibly be voices in there. Radio left on or something. I went outside under the portico, checked if there's anyone hanging around. Maybe his voice is coming through vents and stuff like that. Nope. Place is empty. There's no one around.
That's just wild.
Yeah.
But we do that, and you can almost like rationalize it so much that you just ignore it.
Yes, absolutely. And I've done that a ton of times. I'm walking down a hallway and I hear footsteps, 20, 30 feet behind me. I hear a door slam, a door open and close. I hear a noise, possibly a voice, something like that. When you're walking through like the Supreme Court building, which was a very active building. That's on the, will be the 8th Street side of Capitol Square. It used to be the Federal Reserve Bank back in the day. Yeah. Interesting place. But yeah, that kind of thing was happening all the time, and you just literally just ignore it, And I apologize if you hear dogs growling or barking in the background. It's my dogs. They, who brought the dog?
So you said the Supreme Court building, and I remember hearing that was probably one of the most active places in the Capitol complex.
It was. We had a lot of reports. That building definitely had a feel to it. And of course, it's got a history to it. Back in the 70s, there was a well-known incident, well-documented incident of a security guard. Back when it was the Federal Reserve, a security guard had a dispute with his supervisors and ended up in a shootout, and they shot and killed him. Sorry, here's my dogs again. But they shot and killed him in the sub-basement of what's now the Supreme Court. So people have attributed a lot of the activities to maybe him. But I'd also heard from a retired Capitol Police officer that, and I was never able to verify this, but he said that there used to be a night watchman when it was the Federal Reserve. It was an older guy. He'd probably retired twice. And he would, sorry, guys, let me kick these. Hey. Yeah, home alone, no one to look after the pets. I'm babysitting. So, but yeah, this older guy, he was the night watchman, and he'd just walk around the building at night, smoking a cigar, and checking the doors and stuff. And apparently, his relief came in the morning, and he was dead in his chair. He died, natural causes. And for years after that, people would report seeing him, maybe still walking his rounds. They'd also report smelling cigar smoke, which that's one of the things I experienced one night in there alone. Was I felt like someone had walked past me, and I got this really strong whiff of cigar smoke, like someone had just blown cigar smoke in my face. And of course, I tried to rationalize it. I started going in all the offices and stuff, and checking if maybe a judge had left a cigar burning in an ashtray or something. There was nothing. There was no reason for it.
So, what was the absolute strangest thing that you either experienced or you got told as part of your research?
Well, I'd say I don't know about strange, but the creepiest one that always gets everyone's attention, and people always ask me to recant it to them, was we had, for a while there, for a few years, they had these security guards that worked there as well. They were called support officers, and there was a young girl in particular, and she used to get put in the Supreme Court building overnight. That was her building on night shift, and she'd worked there for months and not had a problem. And this one night, I remember I was working over at the governor's mansion, and I heard her come on the radio in a panic. And some of the guys went down there to see what was going on. And what had happened was she had been on the 6th floor of the Supreme Court building. Place is locked up, alarms on all the doors. She's the only one in there. There's a surveillance system, everything else. And she went to there's a break room up there. It's like a kitchen area. It's got vending machines and coffee machines, stuff like that. And she goes in there, and she goes to the vending machine. And as she's putting the money in the vending machine, she can see her reflection, but she notices the reflection of somebody else standing behind her.
Oh, shit.
And she described it, and she was only short, but she said he was several inches taller than her. He was standing right behind her, like over her shoulder. He had a scruffy beard, dark curlyish hair, and he was wearing a brown suit. And she said the most menacing thing about it was his face was looking down, but his eyes were looking up at hers. And she just remembers his stare in this reflection, which, is enough to make anyone freeze. And she said she froze there for a second. And then she said he either touched her on the back of the neck or he blew on her, but she got a really ice cold sensation on the neck. And she said she dropped the money out of her hand. She screamed. She turned around, and there was no one there. And she ran to the elevator. She's hitting the button on the elevator. And of course, the elevator's too slow, so she hits the fire door and runs down the stairs. And right out the front door onto the street, calls in on the radio. The guys went around there. She was in full panic, tears, everything else. And they searched the building from top to bottom, and there was no one in there.
Meanwhile, the apparition was getting a candy bar at the machine.
Maybe. Yeah, she told him right there. She's like, I'm not going back in the building again. You can fire me if you want, but I'm not going back in there. And they ended up assigning her to another building.
Oh, wow. That's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
Well, that the Capitol, it's complex itself, right? Not Capitol Police, not the governor, but the administrative whatnot. They, because didn't you guys cover like some of the other State Department buildings that are adjacent to the Capitol?
Yeah, there's like there's a few state office buildings around outside of the Capitol Square itself and surrounding the Capitol Square. They even had like jurisdiction over there, the DMV on DMV Drive over by the Science Museum and stuff. But yeah, around Capitol Square, it was the Supreme Court building, the Pocahontas building down on Bank Street, and several buildings down on the other side of Governor's Street.
It,
Yeah,
and I learned that some of those buildings also have stuff going on in them.
they
Reported.
do.
And,
They do.
and that part of why the Capitol kind of keeps this quiet, because our organization was supposed to go into one of these offices at some point, and I'm not going to say which department or which office, but it came back. No, it's a human resources issue. What?
Yeah,
Human resources.
I did
issue.
not know that something that you can't prove is actually a human resources issue, but it is.
Okay.
And so if somebody found out that the building was quote unquote haunted, they could make some sort of HR complaint to be reassigned or have, you know what I'm saying?
I guess I get if you present evidence to, you'll never be able to prove or fully disprove, but you could provide evidence that would corroborate claims. Then I guess I could see where an employee would go, you know what? I've been experiencing strange shit here and it's freaking me out. And this group came in here and they saw the same shit and they got it on recording. Get me the fuck out of here. And then they have to tell you, you're going to have to transfer my ass.
Yeah, the state takes it seriously, doesn't it?
they do. None of the tour guides were allowed to talk about any of the ghost stories of the Capitol, the governor's mansion,
shit.
or anything. Yeah, they were
Tour guides
forbidden.
can't talk about it?
Right, and they were asked all the time by visitors because it's there's a lot of stories outside of my book. There was a lot of stories, stemming from the Capitol, the governor's mansion, and stuff. So tourists would ask all the time on these tours, ask the guides, well, what about the ghost? And I'm sorry, we're not allowed to talk about that. And they would just politely decline. And
I did not.
I
know
tried to.
I didn't either. That's crazy.
Yeah, I tried to get Alan's group, well, the group that me and Alan are with. But back in the day before I was with the group, I tried to get Alan's group permission to conduct an investigation in the governor's mansion and the Capitol building. And of course, state police protects the governor through executive protection unit. So they were like, no. And the Capitol, because it's still a working, seat of government, where the legislators meet for General Assembly and stuff, they were like, we're not having anyone in here with any kind of recording equipment or anything like that. So, no, it was shut down.
Damn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that was some years back.
Huh.
Yeah.
Now, the governor's mansion, since you hit on that has plenty of stuff. And I know that wasn't part of Capitol Police responsibility. That's VSP, but...
Well, the governor was VSP. When the governor's traveling, he has his state police executive protection unit, but the building itself falls under the jurisdiction of Capitol Police. When the governor's at home in the mansion at night, VSP goes home, Capitol Police babysits.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Okay.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so it's both of their responsibility, but the governor himself and of course the first family are the primary responsibility of the Virginia State Police. Yeah,
And I know that building has a lot of reports.
it does. In fact, all the incoming governors and their families are briefed on it because they have a lot of I say poltergeist activity. They've had a lot of reports of everything from, doors slamming, voices, stuff like that, to objects being thrown around. I've had a door slam on me. One of the ladies that used to work there, possibly still does, one of the cleaning staff, she had an ice scoop thrown at her across the kitchen. Flew right out of the ice machine and came out and no one else was in there. She was also upstairs replacing shower curtains. She said she was stood in the bathtub replacing shower curtains. and she heard someone yell a name. So she thought it was one of the other guys that works there, Tootie. And this was early in the morning, and they were actually getting the place ready for an incoming governor and first family. And she thought it was Tootie, the other guy that worked there, so she didn't think anything of it. And then she got out of the bathroom, whatever, and went downstairs, and then Tootie's car pulls up in front of the mansion. She's like, "Wait a minute." So she asked him, like, "Did you leave or something?" He's like, "No, I just arrived." It's like, I wasn't. She was like, "Somebody yelled my name in there." He's like, "No, it wasn't me." And of course, there was no one else in there. They checked the surveillance systems, everything else, there was no one. But she said just another event in the governor's mansion, and that kind of thing is pretty common. I mean, people have seen apparitions. I know at least a couple of the officers, the Capitol Police, saw the apparition of a female in the mirror halfway up the stairs. There's been several reports of seeing her looking out the window, but there's also been reports of a male ghost in there as well, dressed in a what looks like a tux, but you think it's probably the old butler.
Oh wow!
Wearing the black and white uniform, it looks like a tuxedo type thing.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I know at least one governor has gone on record about it, but I gotta ask, what was the reaction of the governors that we've had during your tenure or since then to this kind of stuff?
So I was never there during the briefing by the state police protection team, but we often see the governors in the mansion, and we'd always joke around with them, like if they're like, "Hey, I can't find something, has anyone seen it?" We're like, "It's probably the ghost. Ghost probably moved it," and they just laugh, like, because it's probably true. But yeah, I mean, but they're all aware of it. I don't think anyone really likes staying in that building on their own. So.
No, I don't think our current governor stays there much at all.
No, the family, they would be in town while he's got session, while the governor's got sessions over at the Capitol, General Assembly building, stuff like that. But there's no business going on there generally at their own private residence, wherever. I was there during the Warner administration, and the end of the Gilmore administration, and then the Warner administration, and both of them are always out of town, pretty much.
Yeah, I know Governor Kane went on record about the phone that would ring.
Yeah.
Is that like the emergency line or just a regular line? What
It's
was
just a regular line, but there's no explanation for it ringing. It would just ring at odd times, and there's no callback number or anything like that. I mean, possibly a faulty line, possibly, but everyone just used to kind of like roll their eyes, like, oh, it's just another more ghost activity. Just blame it on the ghost.
It's such an old city.
Oh, it is,
for one.
Yeah,
and then the Capitol, which was designed by Jefferson.
Yes.
For what is the oldest continuous legislative body in the New World.
Well,
it's a lot of stuff.
A lot of history.
And
a lot of history.
Now, probably a little before you were there, I was at the adjoining university. And I was an officer there. And we had stuff. I mean, we would literally had a highway that would divide his old department and my old department. And we had stuff there. I didn't run across it. But let me tell you, there were buildings, you're on midnight shifts, especially down at the hospital section of the university.
Oh, yeah.
They'd freak you out. I never saw anything. Other people did. Other people reported stuff. I never did, but there were buildings you did not. You just just give you the creeps when you're going in there at 2 a.m.
Now, I've been in places that gave me the creeps, but I've never experienced anything on duty. I've had some questionable things happen off duty that makes the hair on your neck stand up, but nothing on duty other than being at a creepy place going, this place is fucking creepy.
Now, when you left and you worked for a couple agencies since then, did you encounter similar phenomena at the agencies you've worked at since, or was that isolated to the Capitol?
It was just isolated to the capital. The closest things I could, you know, say, when I left Capitol, I went and worked for Hanover, and I know I've been around the Cold Harbor battlefield in the middle of the night after.
There's a lot over
people,
there too.
Yeah, people living off close to the battlefield reported noises, strange lights, that kind of thing. And instead of calling National Parks Police out in the middle of the night, we'd just go check it out. And if it was anything that National Park Police needed to know about, we'd forward it on to them. But driving around Cold Harbor battlefield in the middle of the night is pretty creepy. Yeah. And down at the Garthright House as well. That's famously haunted, and I've been out there a few times for alarms going off. There's no one in there, and it's always interior motion detector, which kind of like, yeah, it's never front door. It's always interior motion detector. Like, oh, come on,
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you get in there, you can't find so much as a cobweb or a mouse or nothing.
Right.
And
No.
Hello.
Yeah, it's creepy places. Yeah. Even Scotchtown. Been up there a couple of times when the alarms are going off, and that's another one. It's always interior motion detector. It's never front door, back door, anything like that.
That's a place that our outside group has gone and done research at, and Scotchtown, which is, for those that don't know, it is a 18th century home. I think the earliest part of the home dates to about 1720, but for a number of years during the Revolution, it was Patrick Henry's home, and it's right up the road from where we're recording. And that place is actually pretty active.
See, I just never really experienced it. I mean, I've stayed at two places that were like bed and breakfast, supposed to be haunted. And, took a shit ton of pictures thinking, oh man, maybe I'll catch something on picture. Nothing, didn't hear nothing. Kicked the lights off and I was asleep. I mean, slept like a baby. Didn't bother me, but nothing.
Yeah, no. I seem to find that if I go looking for stuff, I don't really find much, but it's when you're not looking for it, this stuff happens.
Okay, now that's that. I would have to agree.
Yeah, that's 100% true.
Because there's been a couple of things that have, happened to me, off duty, just in my personal life, and it's just when you least expect it, and you're like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
You hear that voice, and you can't find it. And you're like, "Oh, someone's calling my name," and there's nobody there. But you hear it clear, plain as day.
The dog. The dog.
The dog. Yeah. Okay. Who brought the dog?
Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. I say I didn't. Not necessarily on duty, but there was a house that I rented. I lived by myself, and this was when I was a detective. And I just read, because every now and then I would hear little things, and you might hear like a footstep or something. I know there was a night that, and it was just a 2-bedroom house, but my bedroom was upstairs, and downstairs you had the bedroom, and then living room, kitchen, and everything. Upstairs was just a full bath and bedroom. And I hear footsteps, and I mean like it's plain as day footsteps. So much that I pick up my flashlight, I pick up my pistol because it's right there. Because I always got a gun right there. So I'm like, oh fuck, and I thought someone had come in the home. I was like, oh shit, someone's gonna come in the house. And downstairs, I would leave a lamp on. It was just a dim light, but it was a little bit of light downstairs in case I had to go downstairs and I'm not falling and tripping over myself and killing myself, breaking my neck down the stairs. And I'm at the top of the stairs looking, and I'm hearing the steps. And I'm like, oh yes, motherfucker is in the house. And I waited for a few minutes because I'm waiting. I'm like, they're going to pass by that lamp at any moment. I'm going to see the shadow. And then I'm going to know where, because I didn't want to I was afraid if they're armed, if I'm coming down the stairs, if I don't, am I going to be exposed too quick? And then I'm not going to get the jump on. So I'm like, I'm going to wait. Because if they're walking around downstairs, they're going to cross that light path. And as soon as I see their shadow, I got their ass then. I mean, and I'm literally developing the plan to go down there and engage somebody. And I wait, and then nothing. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, all right, fuck it. They're either down there or they're not. So I beeline down the stairs, go clear the place, as fast as I can. Nothing. going. I mean, a dynamic entry to the downstairs and nothing. So I was like, what? But I mean, if I would have chalked it up as I'm in that kind of half sleep state and you hear something. And that's when I did hear it. It woke me up. But when I was actually awake and alert and flashlight and pistol in my hand,
Yeah,
I'm hearing it.
there's no half sleep.
I'm here. I was wide awake then. I'm hearing it, and I was like, "Holy fuck! There's someone here. I'm gonna have to shoot somebody in my house tonight. It's gonna be a long day tomorrow."
And Paul, wouldn't you agree that's probably one of the most common things that any of us run across? Is like just the footsteps.
Yeah, my best friend, he lived in Hanover, or still lives in Hanover, but he had an old house in Hanover, subdivision, and right outside his front door, right across the road, was battlements, Civil War battlements. You just walk right in the wood line, and 10 feet away, there's battlements, And he's in the house one night. Wife and kids are out of town. He called me the next day and said, look, he said, about 2, 3 o'clock this morning, he said, I woke up and someone was walking up my stairs. He said, woke me up out of a dead sleep. He said, I grabbed my gun. He said, I'm in my underwear clearing my house with my gun and a flashlight. He said, I was convinced that someone was in my house. He said, there was no one there. He said, but I heard someone walking, not creeping up the stairs, walking up the stairs.
Yep. That's just like mine. And it's an eerie feeling.
Well, Paul, you talked about growing up on the Isle of Man and that kind of that Celtic tradition, the Celtic lore, which if any of the listeners know anything about that, there's a lot of supernatural with that. And you said you experienced stuff over in the Isle of Man that kind of got you interested in this and kind of took you where you are now. What kind of things did you run across there?
Well, I can remember, growing up and even when we're in like elementary school, because like I said, it's part of the culture, the Celtic culture and the folklore and everything. The teachers would sit around and they would actually tell us ghost stories and stuff. I mean, the teacher does that now. The teacher's probably going to get fired. The kids are not feeling therapy, that kind of stuff, But yeah, I mean, they tell us ghost stories and stuff all the time. I think I was 17 years old when I had my first experience. I was working part-time in a gym because we graduate school and was 16 over there. So I graduated school and I was working part-time in a gym. And the gym is in a really old building, second floor above a clothing store. But anyway, this thing dated back before World War II. And one of the jobs that the trainers of the gym had to do was we take it in turns to clean the place up and come in a couple hours early before the gym opened, and you clean the place up, clean the showers out, stuff like that. So I'm in there on my own. I'd locked the door when I came in. So, there's no one in there. And I was in the men's shower room, and it was there's an open shower block. There's like one door going in, and it's the same door to go out. And so no one can slip in past you. And I'm in there, and I'm like, I got the hose in one hand, I got the broom in the other hand, and I'm just cleaning away. And through the doorway of this shower block thing, there's you can see the wall to the other side of the bathroom, and it's a tiled wall, so you can kind of see your reflection in it, especially when it's wet. I'd hosed everything down and scrubbing it down with a brush and whatever, and I could clearly see my reflection in the wall, and there was somebody else standing behind me. And so it was
time to go.
Yeah, it was more than a silhouette. It was, I could see some features, but I couldn't clearly see the facial features. But it was standing right behind me. And as I kind of stood still and looked, and you kind of frozen there for a second with fear, like because I know there's no one else in there, but I'm seeing this thing, and it might have been a second, it might have been 10 seconds. I was standing there looking at this thing, but whatever it was, it moved, but it walked off to my right. Well, the only thing to my right is a wall, and so whatever it was went through the wall. I dropped the broom, everything out of my hands, and I ran, and it scared the life out of me. So I'm standing outside the front door in the street, when the boss shows up, probably good 30 minutes later, he says, "What are you doing outside?" I said, "I'm not going back in there on my own." He's like, "Oh, you too, huh?" I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah." He says, "Several people have seen it." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He said, "The ghost." I was like, "You serious, dude?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "I've seen it before. The wife's seen it." He's didn't want to freak you out by telling you about it because you wouldn't go in there on your own if I had. I was like, "Oh, thanks for the warning, man." But yeah, apparently I
Thanks,
wasn't the only
asshole.
person to experience it. Yeah.
Damn.
But yeah, that thing, don't know the backstory to it. Don't know why the place is haunted. It's just an old building. But yeah, we'd hear again footsteps, voices, things banging around, that kind of thing, and occasionally it would show itself. I only ever seen it
Yeah.
one time.
Well, and you touched on something right there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it was.
Right.
And that's one of the things that I like about Paul, and I like about the organization that Paul and I work with, and the people in it, is nobody's sitting there going, "It's this." You turn on Travel Channel with the plethora of ghost shows that they have, and they go, "Oh no, it's this, and here's why." And it's Dead Uncle Fred, and Dead Uncle Fred is back because of it's nonsense, because you don't know. We don't know what
Sure.
any of this stuff is. It just is.
Right. Yeah. No, it's always a guess. But I think people like to put a name to it, or try to kind of hypothesize who it could be.
We use the term ghost.
Right.
So Paul, what do you think?
Um, so I think we're a long way away from understanding everything that happens in our world. I think there's a lot of stuff that we simply just cannot comprehend, and the answers are out there. I think the science is incomplete. We know that, and one day hopefully we'll get an answer. But right now I think we're on the right track. We're trying to find the answers, but I think there's a lot of stuff that we just can't comprehend. It's you know can science explain everything? Uh, Not sure, not convinced. And what is science? Just a whole bunch of theories, right?
It's true.
At least for a while, yeah.
At least for a while, yeah. So, yeah, just trying to understand it, just trying to figure it out. That's all we can do.
No, and I think that we in our professions, whether it's law enforcement, it's fire, it's EMS, anything in the first responder community, we're kind of in a unique position to really see this stuff, experience this stuff
Yeah.
when it happens. Now, whether or not we talk about it,
And I think we're probably skeptics by nature.
yeah,
I think that just by the nature of what we do, you're skeptical. And like I said earlier, not a non-believer, not a believer, I want to be skeptical. But when you hear these stories, and Paul, when I hear you talking about the things that you've seen and all the people around you've seen, and then just a few things that I've had happen to me, it's like there's got to be something that we just don't know what it is. We just don't have anything that can explain it right now.
Right.
Well, Paul, how can somebody get a copy of your book?
Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, all the major booksellers. Amazon. Amazon's got usually a handful of copies. So, but yeah, it's available. You can get it. I see it in Barnes and Noble all the time. And anyone who's ever written a book will probably say the same thing. When you go in a bookstore, you look for your own book just to make sure it's there. So I know it's a Barnes and Noble.
Well, again, the book is Policing the Paranormal, by our guest, Paul Hope, from his time at the Virginia Capitol Police, and he's still active LE. Paul, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Appreciate your time. Always good to talk to you, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me join.
Thanks for coming on. It's definitely you're going to get another sale for your book, because now I'm going to have to get it and read it. So I definitely want to hear the rest of the stories, particularly around the Capitol. But yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Anytime. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care, Paul.
You too. Take care. Thanks.
So I'm glad we got to do that.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, a little something different.
Oh, yeah, we needed a little
A
something
little
different.
ghost stories by the campfire.
Yeah, something seasonal. And we needed to lighten up a little bit.
Yeah, it's been pretty heavy lately. We've had a lot of stuff.
So, little trivia about Paul is there's a show, and I can't remember if it's on Discovery or it's Travel Channel, but it's easy to find, and it's called Paranormal 911.
Okay, yep. I think
And-
I've seen that.
Yeah, and it's one of the few of the ghost shows that I actually enjoy.
Right, right.
Because it's one of those, like, it's not Zach Bagans jumping around like
Sure.
like an idiot. But it's all focused on Ellie and first responders.
Okay, yep.
And it's just them telling things they encountered
Oh, see, that's cool.
on duty. And so Paul's experience at the state capitol and his book were season 1, episode 1 of that series.
Oh, no shit. I'll have to see if I can find it on, like, Netflix or something.
Yeah, they do, like, the Discovery Channel reenactments.
Okay,
and
yep.
It's really stylized and shit.
Oh, of
but,
course. It's
it's
TV.
like, ooh, it's so scary, but it was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool to see Paul on that. It was cool to see, our area on that. So, but yeah, if you're interested in that kind of stuff, check it out.
Yeah, I'll definitely check that out. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like all the stories about the Capitol, and there's a ton of them.
Oh God, I mean, and I eat this stuff up.
I know you do.
I eat this shit up. But you know what? I'm going to take it back to our central message of wellness, right? And you're like, how the fuck are you
You're
going
gonna
to do
tie
that?
this shit in. I'm always holding. Let me get positioned. I want
back.
to hear this load of shit.
So, as we talked about, Paul and I are in the same research group.
Okay, I see
that
where you're going.
goes
now.
out and does this stuff, right?
Yep.
And one of the things we've talked about on this show is, find something that ain't
Yep.
cop shit
Nope, you're right. Ties right in.
and go do it and enjoy it,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
And this was something that, again, 17 years ago, I found that was not cop shit,
Right.
but
Yep.
I could apply stuff that I learned as a cop to something that had nothing to do with cop shit.
Yeah, nope. Very cool.
So it's I don't know. I dig it.
Oh, well, I mean, it's obviously it's pretty popular because you have so many ghost shows on Discovery, Travel Channel. I mean, they're all over the place now. So
Yeah, Travel Channel alone is like Guy Fieri and demons.
you're not the only one that's ate up with it. So there's definitely something to it. Definitely very cool. So we're gonna keep on going with season 2, but there may be a little bit of a break. And I know the last episode got out late. It's just been crazy busy here lately. And like I said, I was just in South Carolina. Going down now, I was in Cape May 2 weeks before that. So with all that going on, it has been busy. And I would like to give a shout out to my son who joined the U.S. Coast Guard, who's now stationed in South Carolina. He starts his first day tomorrow. I know he's probably excited and probably a little anxious, but shout out to him. Good job and well done. Bravo Zulu.
So proud of that kid.
Yeah, I know. But we've been busy, so the last episode got a little late. We'll have this one, and then we may have a little bit of a lag between the next ones. But we're going to continue on with season 2 a little bit longer before we take
A little bit of
An extended break, yeah.
holiday break.
So I think we still got some things in store for this season as we wrap it up, but it's been good.
But let us know what you think. Reach out.
Yeah. Shoot us an email. We've been getting some emails.
Yeah. And we like that. And look, if you like this episode, and just for my personal enjoyment and curiosity, if you're a first responder, cop that listened to this episode and you're like, man, I had some weird shit happen to me. Hey, drop us a line. I'd love to hear about it.
Yeah, we'd love to do a follow-up episode with that stuff. I mean, we can always circle back to it. It's just a good, fun topic.
No, I can talk about this all day.
Oh, man. But Al, that's going to wrap it up.
I think it does.
So where can they find us?
They can find us at badgetothebone.com. They can also find us on Facebook at Badge to the Bone.
Also, as we said, shoot us an email at wearebadgetothebone@gmail.com. Let us know what you think. Make sure to like and follow us. All those likes and follows, that helps us move along. So until then, be safe.
And be well.